surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to a new episode of Straight Talk with Joe Villano. I got to tell you, no, I am not a fortune teller. For some of you who have asked, I cannot tell the future. I am not from the future coming back here and being able to let everyone know ahead of time what Democrats are going to do. Because I know them so well that I can read between the lines when I see things, and I'll kind of, obviously, I'll clarify what I'm talking about, and you'll notice it between the emails from viewers and what happens in real time. I tell you, listen, again, I don't know any of these going ahead of time. I didn't know about the mayor going on. I said face the state in the teaser, but I forgot that Dennis House no longer works for Channel 3, works for Channel 8, and it's This Week in Connecticut. So I apologize for, on the teaser online and on the website, it says Face the State. I'm used to Dennis House doing Face the State. I've been on his show with him before. I keep always referring to him as Channel 3, and he's now with Channel 8. But before we even get into that, let's get into the formalities. I am Joe Villano. I'm your host, your guiding light, and I guess your fortune teller. Listen, you'll hear it here first before it even hits the news. That's basically what it comes down to, is that we read these people so well because I've studied them for literally decades. And I know how politicians work. I know how Democrats operate. I know their handbook. I've studied it. And that's why I can't predict these things. And I can see when things are happening that just don't make sense to the normal person, I can read between the lines and be able to clarify it for you and tell you exactly what the hell is going on. And again, we'll get into it. We're going to start with emails because all of our emails that we have here today actually play right into everything we're going to talk about tonight. So we'll get into that. But again, this show only works best when you guys are involved. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610, feel free to call into the show. I love to hear your comments. And of course, if you want to email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. I always keep the email up and running. And of course, if you're on any of the social media, YouTube, LinkedIn, all those in between, you could always jump in on the chat, which is pretty quiet today. It's pretty quiet, which is surprising because usually you guys are very chatty at the beginning before we jump into things. But with that said, let's kind of jump into things because we're going to start with questions because all these questions that were asked through email correlate with what we're talking about now. And the first one came from Jeff in Meriden. And he wants to know why over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I have been attacking the mayor. And I don't see myself as attacking anybody. I see me calling out bullshit when I see it. And I also notice things like the mayor over the last 3 weeks, really over the last week and a half. He has inserted himself into everything possibly going on in the city of Meriden as far as being able to get himself in front of a camera. Now, I know he's been hanging out with Dick Blumenthal, and I said this last week, that when you hang out with Dick Blumenthal, I'm sure he tells you that you need to get yourself out there, which means, i.e., you need to get in front of the camera as much as possible so people see you. And that's exactly what Kevin's been doing over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, on things that he doesn't need to be. So most people will see that as like, that's interesting. I look at it as, what the hell is he planning? He has to have something going on. And of course, I've been on him for the last couple weeks about his whole unaffiliated, where he's not an unaffiliated. He is a Democrat. He is endorsed by Democrats. He endorses Democrats. He does everything hand in hand with Democrats. When was the last time you ever saw Kevin Scarpati with a Republican? Not that I've seen. There has been nothing in public, but he has endorsed publicly Democrats. He is endorsed by Democrats for the last four election cycles. So, pardon me, if I'm not falling for the bullshit that I'm an unaffiliated, I can work with both sides, I can do this, I can do that. Nonsense. And you're gonna hear during this interview. Again, this interview here was pushed by the city of Meriden on their website. Last time I checked, I didn't know we pushed political things on social media. And the city of Meriden's Facebook page promoted this interview, which was nothing more than, again, a re-election campaign, a re-election bid, which is all it was. So, but we're going to get into it. It's only 5 minutes long. We're going to break it. I kind of cut some of the stuff out so that we got to just the questions. We don't care about the puff crap. But his take on certain things is astounding to me. And we're going to get into them. But I don't feel like I have been attacking anybody. Again, I think what he's been saying the last couple of weeks have been nonsense. And again, inserting himself into things that he doesn't need to be inserted in, again, puts my antennas up. The little antennas start going up, and I'm starting to think, okay, what is going on here? What is his angle? And then, of course, like I said, everything we talked about, he actually put in the tape right here for us. And we're gonna sit here and we're gonna go through it. Which, let's so this is Kevin Scarpati with Dennis House from WTNH on this week in Connecticut. And again, it was a puff piece. It was just, again, nothing more than a political coming out for his reelection for this year, which again, I find very odd that it's only mid-February and he's already announcing he's running for reelection. Now remember, This is a 4-term, well, he's going into his 4th run as being mayor. Usually this process doesn't start May, June. He's starting in February, which again, just from observations and statistically, going from historical perspectives, it tells me there's a couple things going on here. One, Kevin Scarpati is not feeling secure in his position. I feel Kevin Scarpati is not feeling secure that the Democrats are going to give him an endorsement again. So he's trying to clear the way. He's trying to clear everybody else out of the way. Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Because Kevin Scarpati will say it himself. And again, he's a coward for not, and I think he's full of shit for not being true to himself on what he's told all of us about why he does not run as a true independent. If you're a true unaffiliated, then run as an unaffiliated. He runs as an unaffiliated with the endorsement of a Democrat. And he says he does that because it is impossible to win without a major party endorsement. He cannot win without without a major party endorsement. That's from himself. He says that. He has said that to me multiple times personally. So for him to sit here on this show, again, we're going to get into it. I'll let you hear it for yourself. I'm sorry. He is a true politician and a true opportunist. That's what he is. I wish he'd just be honest about it. I think he would get the respect of other people a little bit more. But again, the fact that he's coming out in February tells me, one, again, he's not feeling secure in his job, and he shouldn't be. Two, Democrats, and again, Sonia Jelks, I think, is ready to throw him out because he's not progressive enough, and I think the Democrats want to run a minority. I think they want to run a minority. And three, I think he knows he's going to need to raise the money to do it. And he's going to have to raise about 20 grand. What am I doing? Look who is talking. Here's our resident liberal. Hey, Craig. Nice seeing you, buddy. Look who is talking. What part of what I'm talking about are you saying I'm being hypocritical about? Because I'm thinking that's what that means. So by all means, let me know so we could address it. But I know these people inside and out. The problem is getting to the people who believe this shit, who believe the nonsense that he's trying to peddle. So let's start off with the interview.
Walking around the city with you, and when we were there last year, you were talking about all these new things that were happening, the things that you want to happen in your city. Is your vision coming complete in your mind?
Now, let's just before we even get into that, I don't know how I'm an opportunist. I don't really care about holding office. I run because I feel it's the best for the city, but that's you could elaborate on that. But remember, this is a mayor who has no power. Again, which is why I talked about it last week and the week before. Why is he coming out doing all this? He has no power. Who cares about what he wants or believes? Now, do I feel that should change? Yes. I believe charter reform needs to happen. I believe we need to go back to a strong mayor position because, again, people think Kevin Scarpati, our mayor, actually has a say in what's going on. And he really doesn't. He's there to be a ribbon cutter and to take the heat off the council. That's his job. So why anyone cares about his opinion to begin with is beyond me. And whether his vision is coming true. No one cares because he has nothing to do with it. Why is not Sonia Jelks on this show? She is the majority leader. She has the most power in this city. But you never hear anything from her unless she's calling someone a racist, which we'll get into in a little while. But why anyone cares about it to begin with? So let's go. Let's listen on.
It has been a busy few years. Obviously, coming off of COVID, we've really focused on economic development. Business growth has been a target of ours. We've had the influx of federal funding through the American Rescue Plan, and we've allocated a lot of dollars towards promoting economic development. A new initiative called Meriden Big is helping attract new businesses to our city. So it's an exciting time to be in the city.
They have been trying to bring business in here for over a decade. Business growth? Where? We're losing more places than we're gaining here. What growth? And we have inserted a ton of money into downtown, and we still have nothing to show for it. You told us if we rebuild this stuff, they will come. They're not coming. They haven't been here in decades. Downtown is a friggin' ghost town. And you think this Meriden Big project is going to be the end-all, be-all? How many times have we heard this before? We've heard it over and over again. And all the money that's being put into the downtown is going to nonprofits. All this money from the Recovery Act are going to nonprofits. Because the businesses that are trying to get them, yeah, you're approving their application, but the money's not getting there. The money's not getting there because you guys are holding it up for your own special interest. I think Linda said, for your own cronies to benefit. For your own city-approved vendors. There's no money getting to the small businesses. You're doing everything in the world to stop it. But nonprofits, YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, they're making out like bandits. Hell, we're spending more money on fixing a roof than the building is for Gallery 53. The building's not even worth that much. But this is the stuff that we're talking about here. This is the money that he's talking about that we're spending here in the city of Meriden. And it's doing nothing. It's doing nothing to bring more businesses downtown. And that is just a fact. 24 Colony Street is still empty. They talked about making that into a co-op for how long now? And nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Now, I think there's other reasons into that. I think some on the council don't want stuff like this to happen because there are some on the council, i.e. Mike Rohde, Sonia Jelks, who don't want Joe Fest succeeding at all because they want him out of there. Now, I think that is a real concern. It should be a real concern to people in Meriden, to the citizens of Meriden, the taxpayers of Meriden. I think you have a group of city councilors who are actively trying to work against the city, i.e. Joe Fest, who is the economic development director, to do anything because they want his job. They want him out of there. And I think in the end, they will succeed. I think it all depends on how November goes. So I'm just reading back. I think so. Craig, since I want you to enlighten me, Villano for mayor. Listen, I don't think if you run for office that you are an opportunist. I think some people take the opportunity. And what I mean by opportunist is that you will do whatever it takes and you will go against your own values to make sure you get elected so you have the power. And that's what Kevin Scarpati does. That's why Kevin Scarpati runs as an unaffiliated and he runs with the Democrats because he knows he can't win without them, so he has to be on the Democrat side. That's an opportunity. But then yet, goes out and says, I'm unaffiliated. In fact, Craig, if anything, I would think you would be offended by this interview. I think every Democrat should be offended by this interview when they turn around and says, well, you're an unaffiliated and you keep getting elected without any political party. Great for you. Every Democrat should be turning around saying, what the hell are you talking about? You don't get elected without us Democrats. And I'm sure Sonia Jelks is exactly doing that, is saying, you son of a bitch, we sit there and put you in that seat. Unaffiliateds don't put you in that seat. Democrats put you in that seat. It's very, very interesting seeing how the fallout of this happens. Because as a Democrat, I'd be pissed. He's an unaffiliated. But again, we'll see. And why do they want, who wants, so listen, Sonia Jelks has been asking for a replacement of Joe Fest for over a year. Mike Rohde is actively working against Joe Fest to make sure that he fails so that he can be replaced. They don't want him there. Listen, Joe Fest is a Republican. He's been a Republican for a long time, and they just don't want him there. They don't want to be able to give him any credit for anything. And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's more inside stuff for people who don't follow it every day. But those are the things that are actively going on. And Sonia Jelks wants a minority in that position. Listen, it's all in the proof of the pudding, Craig. It's all in the proof. Listen, your actions, Democrats' actions, and what they say tell a story. Again, I didn't sit there and say 2 weeks ago that there's a reason Kevin Scarpatti's out here doing what he's doing. We knew the reason. We didn't think it was going to be this early. But again, tell me where I have been wrong in the past, other than the fact that I said Kevin Scarpatti was going to run for state senate. You don't need documents. It's right there for you to see. See, now these are where Democrats like to get technical when there's no document. Listen, there's no documents showing that the Board of Ed has been talking with each other about employees stealing because they're not stupid. They're not going to put it in a document. Listen, Democrats in power are not stupid. They're not stupid. And even some Republicans in office. And even some Republicans in office, they're not stupid. They won't do things and put it out there in writing. They sit there and hide behind lawyers. Again, the Board of Ed does this all the time, which is why I say the whole Board of Ed needs to be replaced. Anyone who's up for re-election in the Board of Ed needs to be replaced. I don't care what party you are, because I have lost all faith in the Board of Ed. And I know people are going to sit there and say, but they're run by Republicans, Joe. I don't care. See, I may be a conservative, and I may be technically a Republican. I don't give a shit. I'm for the people. I'm for the kids. I'm for the parents. I don't care about political parties, which is why I get in a lot of trouble with Republicans. And I don't care. I don't care. When you are not acting in a proper way in the best interest of the people and the citizens that you represent, you need to go, no matter what party you are. What I would love to see is a whole bunch of independents run. True independence. And that's what I'm going to be looking for this cycle. I'm going to be looking for independents to run who are endorsed by no party. And I'm going to put my money behind that. That's going to be my goal for this year. I don't want Republicans or Democrats. I want independents. That's who I want running for office in our city. I know a lot of Republicans would be pissed about that. I think a lot of Democrats would be even more pissed. Because there are a lot of disenfranchised Democrats in this town that I think would be good for this city. Just like I think there are some disenfranchised Republicans in this town that would be good for this city. And I'm actively going to try to recruit them. And we're going to put together a whole independent line with no endorsements from Republicans or Democrats. That's my goal for this year. And then I would love to see what Kevin Scarpati is going to do then. Because now he's going to be claiming, oh, I'm not unaffiliated. But yeah, no, these are the real unaffiliated. Here are your real independents who just care about the people. That would be my dream ticket for this year. So again, I don't think I'm going after Kevin or anything like that. I just think that we're just gonna have to call bullshit when we see it and hear it, and that's it. So let's continue on with Kevin's interview here.
New train station you said was really sort of an engine for development. Is that turning out to be true?
Yeah, we transformed our whole downtown through redevelopment to the TOD, which a lot of towns are, I think, just coming on board with that. We've been in that for several years, the transit-oriented development, working on the train line, the bus line, reconfiguring traffic patterns all throughout downtown to make it more business-friendly, and that's exactly what we're doing, and now we have the funding to help support some of those small businesses come in and call Meriden home.
Now, one, the city of Meriden has had no control over the TOD. That is all a state project. Those are all state funded. So really, Democrats and the city has absolutely no control over that. Now, the city has asked us to spend tens of millions of dollars in tax abatements to two corporations and two developers to sit there and have them build downtown. Now, they also say that it's going to be mixed housing, and I think he'll get into this a little bit later. But we all know what's happened with that. It starts as 80-20 mixed housing, and then it ends up 80-20 the other way. Because, again, people with incomes are not coming downtown. They're not looking to move downtown. One, because of crime. Two, there's no businesses downtown. So why are they going to move there? And for them to sit there and say, well, since we have all this housing now, in fact, I'll save that. Let me just pause there for a second, and I'll save that. But for the mayor to turn around and say that they have somehow had some kind of control over the TOD and bringing the train station and adding the bus and all that kind of stuff, I think is disingenuous. But again, they're politicians. That's how they talk. So let's continue.
Cannabis coming to Meriden.
We have cannabis. We were one of the first locations to open for recreational retail sales. That opened in January. We've had a successful start over the last month or so, and we've got two more that'll be coming online over the course of the next year.
How much of an impact does that make in the economy, the local economy for you?
So in our budget, we haven't figured any revenue right now just because we really don't know what the market's going to call. But of course, municipalities are going to reap the benefit of the tax. So we'll see, 3% of the sales tax come back to cities and towns across Connecticut. It's been a great partnership with the state of Connecticut in making sure that Meriden was one of the first, being centrally located. And we also have spurred development now, attracting a cultivator, a grower, to relocate to Meriden as well.
So, a couple things here. One, I'm not proud to be the weed capital of Connecticut. I'm sorry. It's just not me. I don't believe we should be praising ourselves on we were first in the state to have weed. But the question that he asked that I found most interesting, and the mayor's answer was, what does that look like for taxes for the city of Meriden? And if you listen to what he said, is that 3%, only 3% of the tax revenue generated comes back to the cities and towns of Connecticut, is what Kevin said. So basically, Meriden has taken on all this responsibility of dealing with what comes along with weed sales. And again, higher crime rates, littering, all sorts of different things that come along with weed and with any drugs. Meriden has taken that on. Remember, we only have one. He said we'll have 2 more coming online. So we have all this responsibility the city of Meriden is taking on to make sure it is properly run and make sure the panhandlers and everything's being done properly. So the city has taken that on, but yet the entire state, Southington, Cheshire, Berlin, all who have said absolutely no to weed, they're still going to get part of that 3% for their local towns. But yet Meriden is taking on all the responsibility for dealing with these growers and dealing with the suppliers and the retailers. Does that sound fair? For some reason, the city of Meriden, again, and he'll get into it even further when it comes to affordable housing. He says we have enough affordable housing. It's time for other towns and stuff to pick up, do their fair share. They're not going to. They know they found a sucker in Meriden. They found a weak government in the city of Meriden that is heavily dependent on state and federal aid. And if the state and federal aid dries up in the city of Meriden, ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a fucking disaster. Disaster. No other city or town is going to do what we are doing here because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. You're taking on all the responsibilities. For what? For a 0.02% of the benefit of tax revenue? Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry. But when you weigh the pros and cons, there are way more cons than pros for the city of Meriden in these deals. And if he thinks that any town or city around us is going to pick up the slack, he is smoking crack. It's never going to happen. They found their suckers. And it is the government of the city of Meriden. And that's sad. Because most people don't see it that way. Even though it's the truth. Because they don't stay informed on what's going on. And that's why, again, if the city comes out, if Kevin comes out and says it, people think it's true. I'm an unaffiliated. Oh, that must be true. No, it's not. Oh, we're benefiting better than anybody else on weed sales. No, we're not. In fact, we're taking a wash on it. We're ahead of everybody on the TOD. No, look at Wallingford and Berlin. They're doing 10 times better than we are with the TOD. And they have the same exact funding as we do as far as what they're doing. And they've been successful. We have not. It's very, very, very concerning. And everybody should be up in arms about it. But don't worry about it. If you get high enough, if you just get high enough, don't worry about it. You won't even remember it. Go smoke a joint. We're the weed capital of Connecticut, baby. Yeah, be proud of that. Ladies and gentlemen, it makes no sense. None. All right, let's continue on with this.
The biggest challenge Meriden faces?
I think there's just a stigma out there that, for whatever reason, Meriden's not safe, but the Meriden Police Department's doing a phenomenal job making the arrests. We obviously have seen a lot across the state of Connecticut with larger cities trying to combat crime. We seized over 170 guns just last year alone. So we're trying to get those criminals off the street. We've got a tremendous school system in our city that also gets a bad rap. And so we're doing everything we can to communicate that out to the public, attract businesses and families, because Meriden is a very affordable place, as well as, a great place to live.
Okay. Where do we start with this? Meriden has a stigma. Who created that stigma? Who created it? Last time I checked, our own city council told the people, told everybody that our Meriden Police Department is racist and we go around beating up minorities. The leading cause of death in Black Americans is by the hands of police. The most bullshit thing you've ever heard in your life. They have no supporting documents for it. You want to talk about the stigma? It's coming from our own friggin' government. Our own leadership is telling the people that we have issues here in the state, in the city of Meriden. So why would people not believe it? If Sonia Jelks, the highest ranking person in political office in the city of Meriden, turn around and says that we have a racism problem in Meriden, why wouldn't people and businesses believe that? Of course they're going to believe it. My question is, since Democrats have been in office and hold power in this city for the last 35 years or so, why have they done nothing about it? LaRue Graham, Sonia Jelks, Mike Cardona, Cortez. Why haven't you friggin' done anything about it? You all run the city. Why has all this stuff not been fixed? One, because you know it's bullshit. And two, you benefit from it. You guys make money off it, and you get reelected trying to blame Republicans for it, which is where I think in the city of Meriden, we have the weakest Republicans who are afraid to stand up and say that. In fact, if you go ahead and cry in a city council meeting, you will have Republican councilors turn around saying, oh, screw my values, screw what I believe. I got to vote for you. You're crying about it. You're right. Meriden is racist, and Meriden does have a police brutality problem in the city. That's how, unfortunately, Republicans react in this city. And which is why I always say in previous elections, why vote for a Republican if they're going to act like a Democrat? Doesn't make any sense. But you're wondering why there's a stigma. That is why. And our Board of Education, again, you have kids bringing weapons to school. Now, again, that's not strictly a Meriden issue. That's going on around the state and around the country. But you have juveniles. You're right. Our Meriden Police Department does a friggin' phenomenal job. 170 guns off the street last year. We used to do 2 to 3 times that in previous years when we were actually allowed to search vehicles that you knew had guns, which you're not allowed to do anymore under the Police Accountability Bill. So I don't know why he's bragging about 170. We used to do a lot more than that. And you're wondering why Meriden has a stigma. Listen, vehicle crime in this city, especially when it comes to theft from juveniles. Again, due to the liberal policies, they are handcuffing our police department, and they have to release these kids, these juveniles, back to their parents. And again, we've talked about this many times over the last, year? They're being arrested, they're being released back to their parents, and some of them are being rearrested hours later for doing the exact same crimes, and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. In fact, I think there was just a thing a juvenile was arrested on Friday for reckless driving and car theft. And again, what are juveniles doing out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? So let me just read this. So officers repeatedly attempted to stop a silver Kia Friday morning, which was driving erratically and sped off at unsafe speeds. And then a couple hours later, around 5 a.m., police said the two officers sitting in a cruiser witnessed the Kia pull into a parking lot. Well, shit, Craig, can't do much worse than what's going on now. And holding people accountable is key. And that's something we are not allowed to do anymore. And it's not because our police department doesn't want to. Our police department would love to get these people off the streets, these juveniles off the streets for good. It's the state's attorney's office that says, no, we can't. We're not going after that. We're not going after that. That's why we have the issues we have in this state. And yes, Craig, if they did vote for me, listen, we'd be up at the state capitol right now making sure that these people are held accountable. But no. Everybody's a victim. These people are just victims of circumstance. Not held for the consequences of their actions. And that is something that definitely needs to be done, charter reform. I think that is a win for everybody. So let's continue on with, I think we got another 2 minutes left.
Let's talk about you, and I mean the you after your name. You are Kevin Scarpati. You, unaffiliated.
Yes.
So that means that you're not a Democrat or a Republican, and you can work with both. And you've told me before that is working out well. So what does that mean for your plans in terms of re-election?
Yes, sure. So it's always a blessing and a curse, I think, at times, when people look at you and say you don't belong to a political party. It's great because
Now, let's just stop that right quick. When people look at you and say you're not part of any political party, that just means you're talking to an idiot on the streets who has absolutely no idea what's going on. And that they are a fool and they're going to believe any bullshit you're about to tell them. That's all that means. Is when an unaffiliated or someone in the public turns around and says, well, Mr. Mayor, how are you not affiliated with anybody? Oh my God, you must be the greatest thing in the world. Everybody loves you. No, they don't. They don't.
you know, I have open dialogue with all members, not only of our community, but also elected. And so being unaffiliated can pose challenges when you're trying to work with different caucuses to get a resolution through or to get different policies set. However, you know,
now, let's stop right there, because again, this is where it comes down to where, you know, he's sitting there and he can sit there and say, oh, I work with both sides, but it's a little difficult, you know, when I'm trying to get something passed. Listen, the reason why people listen to him, they'll listen to him out of respect. They're just saying, oh, he's an elected official, whatever. But which is why Democrats don't care about what he has to say. Sonia Jokes doesn't care about what he has to say. Republicans might care about what he has to say sometimes, but they have no power. He has no power. So nobody cares about what you have to say. So again, whether you have a U, a D, or an R, he sits here like he is somebody in the city. And at the end of the day, he has nothing. Now listen, for years, I've told Republicans to go after the council, endorse the mayor, because it gets him out of the way. When you can get him out of the way and focus directly on the council, you have a much better chance of winning. And I think, again, if you look at past historical elections, you will see if Kevin Scarpati was out of the way, Republicans would have probably a couple more seats on the city council, which again is where the power is in this city. So again, I think two things this year that's different. And again, in fact, I'll just answer the question because this one came from Casey in Meriden. How do you see this election cycle playing out? And I kind of touched on it earlier. One, I want to see a true independent line on the ballot this year. And I want to see Democrats and Republicans running on that line without any endorsement from either of the major parties. That's what I want to see. And that's what I'll be looking to find. Because I think that benefits the people and the citizens and taxpayers more than anyone who's endorsed by the parties. That's how I feel. And again, that's my hope and my dream, I guess, of how I want to see this election cycle play out. But because I already know how most of it's going to play out. Kevin's going to get the Democrat endorsement, maybe. I mean, if Sonia Jelks can find a minority to run, then I guarantee you that's probably the direction they're going to be trying to go. I think as far as Republicans, Kevin Scarpati has absolutely zero chance of getting the Republican endorsement, especially after all the endorsements he's made over the last 8 years. I can't imagine or 6 years. There's no way that any Republican could turn around and say it would be a good idea to endorse Kevin. I would advise against it if I was them. Even though, like I said, in the past, I have said, maybe 6 years, 4 years ago, I said we should do that because, again, it would get him out of the way and let us focus on the council. I think two things that should be everybody in this city should be focused on: charter reform, which, again, is supposed to happen every 10 years. Every 10 years, charter reform is supposed to be brought up. We're supposed to re-examine the charter. That has not happened since 1996. So we're well over the 10 years. So that should be priority number one for everybody in this city. And two should be turning it into a strong mayor instead of a council run. Because again, that allows the residents and the voters of the city of Meriden to make changes quickly. It is damn near impossible to make changes to the city council in no less than 12 years. That's just a fact where you can replace one person and change the whole dynamic of the city. Democrats know that, which is why they have never even looked at charter reform. So that's why I think this year, the mayor's race is going to be a huge race if we could get charter reform on the ballot in November. Now, last time I talked to Kevin, he was for charter reform because, listen, he would love the power. He would love it. Which way he would go with the power once he got it would be interesting to see. But I don't trust him. So I would like to see, again, a true independent run for the mayor position with charter reform being on the ballot. So, but let's continue on to what he had to say.
We're going to be seeking re-election this November, so that's coming up very quickly, and we'll be seeking endorsements as we get closer to the date in a couple of months.
Now, you heard him, and this is how you know it's a puff piece, because where was Dennis House on that? The first thing I would have thought, wait a minute, you're an unaffiliated. You run as an unaffiliated. Who are you getting endorsements from? Who are you looking for endorsements from? Because he just, he's sitting there trying to say, I'm an unaffiliated. It's hard. I think it comes into the next segment. Let me just jump into the next one, and then we'll go from there.
What's the secret to somebody out there who might be watching and saying, like, gee, he's winning as an independent or an unaffiliated? How do you do it?
Being true to yourself and your values. That's really what I've done.
Now, how he didn't just choke on all that fucking nonsense just there is beyond me. It's beyond me. How he did not just choke and turn red and keel over is beyond me. If somebody is sitting here watching and say, how do you do it as an unaffiliated independent? Just sit there and say, listen, we have a city that's outnumbered Democrats to Republicans 3-1. So, I just grabbed the Democrat endorsement and therefore I win. I mean, if he was going to be honest with the people, this is how you know he's an opportunist and he's full of shit. This is how you know. This is how you know he is not about the people, he's about himself. Or he would have been honest with people and turned around and said, listen, I can't do it as an independent and unaffiliated. He would say what he's told me and others multiple times. I can't do it as an independent and unaffiliated. I have to grab the endorsements of the Democrats in order to win. That would have been the honest answer. And listen, he hesitated at first because he didn't know how to answer it. And like I said, I'm surprised he didn't choke and keel over, because that right there was the biggest bunch of bullshit you're going to hear all night. He is literally being disingenuous and lying to everybody that's watching that show right now.
Parents instilled in me is always be yourself. And I think just naturally, I've realized that maybe I don't fit in a party. And fortunately, it's worked out. The voters see that as a benefit, being able to work with both sides to move Meriden forward. And that's what I'll continue to do.
Could it work?
So again, okay, Mr. Mayor, if the voters believe that that's truly what it's all about, and you being unaffiliated independent, why don't you just run that way this year? Just run that way. Be true to yourself. Be true to your convictions. And just run as unaffiliated. And let's see what happens. I think it would be a great thing to see. And I hope Democrats find someone to run. It is really, really, really disingenuous. And listen, so I said, Mr. Bernay, our minority leaders on the show tonight. What do you got to say? The mileage he gets out of the title is incredible, and really, listen, of course it is. Listen, he can do anything again, but again, I think it's too real. There is no real mayor that has to, no one reporting to. Again, I find that he is nothing more than a shield for Democrats on the council. He is literally has to take all the heat for everything they do. Now, again, Dan, I know you're required to be in communication with everything, but do you really have a say in the matter? Tell me the last time Sonia Jelks reached out to you and actually wanted to have a conversation and actually cared about what you had to say. He hasn't. Or she hasn't. Because she don't care. Listen, Sonia Jelks is a dangerous, dangerous individual. Because she has an agenda. And her agenda is nothing but race-based. And we haven't even gotten into it yet. We haven't even gotten into the human rights yet. So let's finish this up so we can get into that, because that's something we need to get into.
Let's, final question about housing in Meriden. I know you wanted to get some new apartments and some new condos, new houses built. Is that happening? So
Meriden's, I think, led the way in many fronts around housing. We've done a great deal of mixed-use housing, affordable housing, and it's obviously been a goal by the governor and the legislature to increase density and make housing more affordable across the state. We have new housing developments that have opened. We've got a couple more that are coming online, and my message has been Meriden has done its fair share when it comes to affordable housing. It's time for smaller cities and towns to step up and do their part as well.
And you're sort of like the hub of that area.
We are. We're very much. I mean, centrally located, right, off of 691, 91, Route 15. We've got a lot going on and very easily accessible from major roadways, which is benefit to us. We have the train station, of course, but as far as housing goes, our focus now needs to transfer. The last 10 years has been on housing. We've got the people. Now let's get to business.
Which is funny to me, because they've always been saying, oh, we've been trying business here. We're getting business here. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. We've not been focused on business. We haven't been focused on business. We've given tens of millions of dollars of tax relief, but we, again, to bring in low-income housing. And he's right. We have done our fair share of housing. In fact, we've done over that. You have a city that has a 16.8% affordable housing rate, which is almost 10% more than any other town. And again, these local cities around us aren't going to sit there and do it. Again, they found their suckers in Meriden. They found them. They're here. That's why cities and towns around us aren't going to bring cannabis and are not going to bring affordable housing. Because all these things that he talks about are coming online that are mixed use. They're not. They're not selling. They're not renting them. And therefore, they're going back to the state and saying, hey, listen, we need to switch these over. And they're going back to council. We need to switch these over to low income. That's what's really happening. But again, this is what happens when you have a city that is dependent on grants and funding from the state and federal governments. This is what you get. This is the circus you get. This is the clown show you get. Okay, so let's go to Scott in Meriden. So what are your thoughts on the new Human Rights, Racial Equality, and Social Justice Board? And we all know that this has been... and, of course, who is the city councilor that's assigned to this group? Sonia Jelks, of course, is the councilor who's on this. So I have reached out. So in case anyone doesn't know, Vanessa, I believe she was also on the damn board for the CRB. She was elected by the board to be their chairwoman. Now I have reached out to Vanessa, and since she and the board want to be more out there in the public, and she wants to hear from the public, I thought, what a great opportunity. I sent her a message, waiting for her response to please come on the show and let's talk about what they want to do. And again, you know, we've had Republicans on here. We've had Democrats on the show, and we're cordial with all of them. We'll show you the respect that you show us. And just as long as there's no BS going on, we're going to be just fine. But I want to know, what is her plan and what is her board's vision moving forward? Because I look at that board and I think it's an absolute joke. It's a bunch of far leftists who want to sit there again and do everything based on race. And I think that's exactly what this board is going to try to do, which is why Sonia Jelks is right on top of it. So they're supposed to bring her homework for everybody is to bring back two things that they think that should be taken care of. And of course, Jeff Frazier, always someone I love listening to and hearing from, because he's about as far left as they come. He thinks that some of the future topics would be environmental racism, contracts, fair rent, and other topics. One, environmental racism. What the frig is that? What is environmental racism? I tried looking it up, and I honestly couldn't even find a real definition online for it. Contracts, what they would have to do with what are you going to do? Give minorities a different contract than white people? Again, so I look at all this stuff, and I say, okay, you want to bring equality to the city. And in some of the places they talked about is that our fire department is probably there's the least amount of minorities. So, okay, so I guess we have to fire some firemen. And listen, whoever doesn't agree with this is racist and bigoted. So just listen closely here. You need to take one for the team. Team Meriden. We are going to firefighters. Let me rephrase that. We're going to fire white firefighters, and we're going to replace them with minorities. We're going to take mechanics in the city of Meriden, and we need to fire some of you because there's too many men here. There's too many men in that field. So we need to fire some of you so we can bring women in over there. Listen, it's all about equity. Now, on the flip side of that, minorities. No more affirmative action. We're going to bring equality, right? So we got to make it equal. But of course, they'd never be for that. The thing I get with this whole racial equality bullshit, which is all it is, it's all bullshit, is that they want equality and they want changes when it benefits them, but when it doesn't, forget it. You're just being racist. Which counselors are giving up their seat. Mike Rohde has to give up his seat. Nicole Tomaselli needs to give up her seat. You need to put another minority there. If we're going to sit there and match what the voter rolls are, you know, you got to take one for the team. I'm sorry. That's what you believe in, right? You can't hold that position anymore. Are we going to do equality here? I want to know from Vanessa what equality means. And they're going to go with their whole systemic racism. What? Give me an example of systemic racism. I can give you a couple right now. Affirmative action. That's systemic racism. Minority-owned business status. That's systemic racism. But if you say that, if you speak the truth, they will come for your head. Now, for me, I'm at the level of fuck you, where I don't care. I don't have to worry about it. They could come after me all they want. I will speak the truth and make them defend their positions. What does equality mean? It is a great question that I'm hoping Vanessa is going to answer for us. Because I'm dying to know. I think this whole board is a bunch of far leftists sitting there patting themselves on the back about what a great job they're going to do for equality and how they're going to change our city in dramatic ways. Because they're going to pass all this stuff along, and the city council and the Democrats and the city council are going to be like, well, we didn't come up with this stuff. The board did. The board did. We're just doing what they asked because they got all the information and they got all these surveys that are going to go out. And we all know how the surveys turn out for them. But again, this is the city council and the Democrats on the city council turning around and just being able to say plausible deniability. Well, no, we had no control over this. We didn't come up with these plans. We didn't come up with this stuff. This was an independent board that came up with this stuff. And therefore, we need to take action on it because they found proof of it. I can tell you, we're going to record that and play it back in 6 months from now because that's exactly what Sonia Jackson is going to be saying at a city council meeting. Those exact words. I bet my house on it. An independent board came up with these recommendations because they sat there and they researched it and they did their due diligence. It's all a joke. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all a political agenda that has been set up by Democrats and the liberals in this city. That's all this is. And again, I've been right 99% of the time. 99% of the time, I've been right. And I know I'm right here. And I hope Vanessa, I'm dying to know what the intentions of the board is. All right. Liz from Meriden, is there anything we can do about all the nip bottles? Oh, what do we got? We got 801. Let's skip that one. Sorry, Liz, I'll talk about that next week for you because there was something that's been an argument I've had with certain people for a while. Obviously, this one last one we'll do for Julia in Berlin. Do you think Nikki Haley is a threat to Trump in the Republican nomination? Because again, what better way to end Democrats watching this by invoking Trump into it? So this to kind of get them fired up before they go to bed tonight. Do I think Nikki Haley is a threat to Trump for the Republican nomination? I do not. I think she is setting herself up for a vice president nomination. I think she would actually be a decent I think she'd be a decent vice president. But I think that's what she's setting herself up for. And I think that's probably more the conversation that, in case you don't know, Nikki Haley, she was the governor of North Carolina. She was also the UN ambassador under Donald Trump. Fiery lady, very brilliant. She's very good. But is she a threat? I doubt it. And like I said, I think she is doing nothing more but setting herself up for a vice president spot. Because again, I definitely don't think that Ron DeSantis is ever going to take a vice president stop. Oh, was it tongue in cheek? Well, there's probably some people who don't know who Nikki Haley is. But no, I don't think she is a threat, but I think there will be a couple more people that do join the race. And again, I don't think it's really going to be much interesting. I think Donald Trump will take the nomination easily, hands down. And I think if you now take Donald Trump's America from 2016 to 2020, well, 17 to 21, then, and you compare it with Joe Biden, which again, Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee for the Democrats. We talked about this about a month ago. The Democrats have systematically set Joe Biden up to be thrown away. They tried to get him to go away on his own. He decided not to. So therefore, that's why you see all these stories coming out, whether it's Hunter Biden, whether you see it's the documents. They think the document scandal is going to knock both Donald Trump and Joe Biden out, which again opens the field up to everybody. It's not going to work for Donald Trump. It will work for Joe Biden. Main reason why Donald Trump was president, he can declassify anything he wants. When it comes to people like Michael Pence and Joe Biden, they were only vice presidents. They actually have no authority to do such. So I think for Democrats, it's serving its purpose, and I don't think Joe Biden will be the nominee for the Democrats. I think it will be Gavin Newsom from California, which I think is going to be an absolute joke. And I think that will be hilarious to watch Donald Trump go after Gavin Newsom. So we'll see what happens. But it's 8 o'clock. We could sit here and literally talk for about another hour, but we will save it for next week. Obviously, as always, you can always throw your questions into the email. And I'm sure this will be. I'm interested to see the comments that come along all week on this one, because I think this is all hilarious stuff that happened today. And again, without even calling it, we called exactly how this was going to play out. So again, I know them better than they know themselves. It's sad but true. And again, they've came right out and said it to us. But until then, I would keep going, but I do have to make a trip out to go meet with some people. So until then, guys, stay active, stay informed, and please, please, please spread the information you're hearing so we can sit there and combat all this nonsense that you're hearing from the other side. It's absolutely crazy to me. Order this Thursday for, Casa de Roma. Listen, Baj does a great job over there. He's always helping out different groups, and I'm taking that to a dance team there for this Thursday, so they support. So go ahead and order from Casa de Roma. They're awesome over there. They have great food. Until next week, guys, I love each and every one of you, and as always, God bless you, and of course, as always, God bless this amazing country of ours. I love you guys, and good night.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender faith. It's like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard.